Ka-chow literature. Are y'all ready for Man Fuck This House, the finale? I bet you are. Hi, it's me. Good morning. Hi, hello. I'm here to read the books that y'all love. So what? We're not gonna be reading this book for too long today, I suppose, because there's only about 22% of it left. The book goes pretty fast. Last time we went through a lot of it. We're at kind of a climax in the story right now. Last time we left off, the house is getting angry with everybody. The husband sucks. He got poisoned by the houseman, and he got put in the hospital. And a different dad-shaped houseman attacked one of the children, the creepy little child Damien. Yeah, no, wait, no. That big fat houseman attacked Damien, right? Who looks like the previous occupant of the house, who is in prison currently. Spooky. Dad man, the Hal thing as it's called, attacked the other child, Michaela, who is the good child, but she was too creeped out by him, so she threw his face into a lawnmower, and that's where we left off. Mom snapped out of her freaky trance watching the TV that was feeding her lies, and went to save Damien from the fat man houseman thing, and she trashed up the house a bit, and that hurt the guy, and so now the child Damien is running away and not being drowned in a bathtub. Ain't that something? And that's about where we left off, I suppose. There's not much else to catch up on. So let me just swap over to my reading music, and let's get to it, shall we? Let us finish this house. We will fuck this house, man. It's gonna be great. Mute. Play. There it goes. Let's hope I don't cough my guts out or something, because I have this kind of a cough going on today and the last week, but that's fine. Let me just turn up the music a little bit. Turn this up a little bit. Adjust my volumes everywhere. Check out. And let us continue. Man Fuck This House by Brian Asman. Damien ran, bloodied, heart pounding, gasping for breath. He mustered what strength he could and launched himself out of the bathroom, rocketing towards the bedroom door. It slammed shut in his face. Damien jumped back, bumped off his parents' bed, grabbed the doorknob and twisted, but it held fast. Perryman's large shape filled the bathroom doorway. "Get back here, you little..." Something shattered in the bathroom. He twinged in pain. "Please don't do that." Damien took advantage of the distraction and ran for the window, pushing it open. He tried to crawl out, but the window slammed shut, nearly severing his fingers. Perryman roared, charging him. Damien ducked under the man's outstretched arms, seized the lamp off the nightstand, the plug offering the slightest resistance before coming free, and threw it at the window, hard as he could. The window shattered. Perryman yowled. Another loud crash from the bathroom. Maybe the picture window by the tub. The mirror. Something. And Perryman fell to his knees. Tears streamed down his big, ruddy face. Sabrina appeared in the bathroom doorway, brandishing the towel rack like a sword. "Break something, now!" Damien grabbed the closest thing at hand, an end table, lifted it high, and slammed it into the floor. The legs splintered. Perryman grinned. "Not our stuff," Sabrina cried. "Break the house!" Damien stared at her, confused, until Sabrina slammed the towel rod into the wall, lancing some very nice wallpaper. Perryman fell back to his knees, hands covering his face. They're connected. Damien looked about something sturdy he could use to dig into the walls. Nothing. Then a light breeze fluttered across his face. Not from the window. The ceiling fan. Damien dodged another wild swing from Perryman and jumped on the bed. A child all over again, leaping from the ceiling fan. Thankfully, it was on the slow setting. He caught the fan blades on the first try. He spun around for a single dizzying moment, soggy sneakers kicking out. Though small for his age, the ceiling fan was made to hold no weight at all. Even something so slight as an underweight 4D chess master like Damien Haskins. The fan blades broke off in his hands. Damien fell, not far, landing on the bed and bouncing off. His sneakers squelched when he hit the ground. Perryman, who had been rhinocerosing his way across the bedroom, suddenly seized up, like he'd thrown out his back, and fell to the ground. "Go!" Sabrina said, tearing another chunk of drywall free, exposing studs and wiring and mouse turds. "Get out of here!" Damien, still holding the fan blades, the fan itself hung limply from its wiring, an eye yanked from its socket, didn't move. "What about you?" The pile of Perryman on the floor stirred, pushing up to his knees. "I'll be fine. It's you he wants. Now go!" Damien swallowed. She had a point. He clambered for the window, pushing through the feast first, cutting his palms open on the glass sticking out of the frame. Barely felt it. He hauled his small body through the aperture. The ground looked far, far away, even for an adult, but it beat drowning in the bathtub. Perryman huffed with rage. Sabrina tossed the towel rod on the comforter. She climbed up on the bed and grabbed the limply hanging ceiling fan by its casing. Perryman looked at her, at his original quarry hanging out the window. Back again. He took a single heavy step in Damien's direction. "Mom?" Damien called. "Jump!" Sabrina replied, yanking on the ceiling fan's motor for all she was worth. Damien pushed himself away from the window, hanging motionless for what seemed like an eternity. Too late, it occurred to him that there was something he really should have said. "I love," he called as gravity bore both child and words away. The Hal thing, faceless, stared at her, his skin shorn off, revealing what should have been bone and tissue, but was not. Michaela goggled, trying to make sense of the sight. The ragged rim of skin around Hal's face revealed an exposed 4x4, bristling with nails, wiring, screws, and improbable mishmash of construction materials, dappled with drywall flecks like powdered sugar. Hal took a staggering step towards her, dark brown clumps that looked like rat feces falling out of his face. "You're no angel," he said, lipless, the words resounding from somewhere within his ruined face. "Look what you did to me! Look what you did!" Michaela screamed, equally terrified by the sight and the pure incandescent rage frothing from forth within the Hal thing. She raised the flagstone over her hands shaking so badly she feared she'd smash her own skull open before the house thing, had a chance. "Ah!" she cried, heaving the stone. It sailed through the air, slammed into the house thing's torso. The house thing tottered, took a step back, and laughed, a dusty, echoing noise. The house thing bent down, tried to pick up the flagstone one-handed, but only succeeded in tipping the stone over on its foot. "Oh well," it said, righting itself. "I don't need that." The house thing rushed her, one hand outstretched, the other ruined appendage hanging at its side, frayed wires wiggling like earthworms. Blam! 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 Shots rang out. Bullet holes erupted in the house thing's shirt. The thing slowed. Dust whooshed out of the wounds. Michaela, ears ringing, turned and ran. A woman in a brown pantsuit stood on their lawn, aiming a pistol at the house thing, flanked by 3 other cops holding handguns. 2 police cruisers, lights flashing, were parked in the street behind them at odd angles. "Detective Sherman, Jackson Hill PD!" the woman cried. "Get down, Michaela!" Michaela had no time to wonder how the woman knew her name. She hit the deck, hard, and pressed her hands over her ears as tightly as she could. She still heard everything. Dozens of shots, too many to count. Someone picked her up, and then she was moving, the world swaying wildly around her. For a moment she feared the house thing had gotten hold of her, but the person smelled like a man, aftershave and sweat, and she could see his blue uniform, hear the radio hissing in her ear. They reached a patrol car. Her savior wrenched the back door open, shoved her inside, then shut the door. Michaela twisted around in the seat, trying to see, but the cop backed up against the window. More shots rang out. He reloaded, then advanced again, firing quickly. Despite herself, Michaela pressed up against the glass to see what was going on. The house thing, bullet-ravaged, teetered across the lawn. Sherman barked orders, popped off a few shots, ejected her clip and slammed a new one home in a single smooth motion. One of the other cops broke away, running for the cruiser. Michaela thought he was going to drive her away, and how could he? Her mother was still inside, not to mention her brother, but he angled around to the trunk, came back into view a second later, racking a shotgun. He yelled something. Michaela could hear very little through the glass, and tossed the gun to Sherman. She dropped her pistol, caught it, whirled around to face the house thing, now only feet away. She aimed at a knee and fired both barrels. The buckshot tore the house thing's leg in half, instantly dropping it. The cops circled it, still pumping bullets. But it didn't rise again. The ankle broke his fall. The ankle broke his fall. Wait, that wasn't right. The fall broke his ankle. He might have hit his head too, but that was a far less pressing concern. His foot was twisted at a weird angle. What novelty! He'd never supposed an ankle could bend that way. Damien's logic brain realized he was being a bit too magnanimous about his ankle, determined he cursed house before the pain. Determined he must be in shock, and crawled away from the gods' cursed house before the pain, surely coming soon, and with a vengeance made him black out. He inched across the grass, pleasantly surprised by his pace. Maybe he should crawl everywhere, to the bus stop, Mr. Tuthill's class, the bathroom, and the principal's office, and everywhere else he ever had to go. Then the air erupted with gunshots. Lots of gunshots. Yelling, too. Snatches of undecipherable orders or anger in between fusillades. Damien had no idea what they were talking about, or what they were shooting at, for that matter. The smart move was usually to crawl away from the gunfire, but he was pretty sure they said something about police. The gunfire stopped. Grass stained, wet, and bloody. Damien rounded the house and saw 4 police officers huddled over something on the front lawn, firearms at the ready. Thinking quickly, he broke off the last horn of his head and tossed it away, then pushed himself up into a seat. "Over here!" he cried, waving his hands. One of the cops holstered their pistol and sprinted across the lawn. "I've got you," the cop said, picking Damien up with ease. He shivered, reminded of the way Pettyman grabbed him. The cop asked him his name, told him he was very brave. Damien found it a bit patronizing and hauled him over to a cruiser. Michaela waited inside, face and fingers pressed up against the window. She scooched away when the cop opened the door, planted him into the seat. "We'll take a look at that ankle in a sec. Hold tight for me, okay?" The cop thumbed his radio, barked something about EMS and where the EFF were they. Michaela hugged Damien tightly. "My God, are you okay?" "I think so." He leaned out of the car, head swimming, nearly falling over into the street. "My mother is still in there," he said, pointing up at the house. The man said, "Watch your legs," and shut the door. And then they were alone. "What happened?" Michaela asked, still clinging to him fiercely. Damien looked to their house, searching for clues in the windows. "I honestly have no idea." Even in her college days, Sabrina had never, ever wrecked a house, outside of the occasional broken beer bottle, or the time some spindly sub-IKEA kitchen chair collapsed under her weight in front of all her friends, to her horror. Now she was making up for lost time. With Damien out the window, the fight seemed to leave Perryman. He cowered in the corner, pleading with her to stop. She did not. Sabrina liberated one of Hal's golf clubs from his closet, a far better tool than the towel rod, and got to work smashing windows, shattering the sink in the kids' bathroom, knocking shower heads to the ground. Perryman crawled down the hall after her, on his knees, begging. She ignored him, instead rearing back and cracking the tile. Then she turned the faucets on full blast, swung at the pipes underneath the sink. 1, 2, 3 times, knocking them loose. Water rushed out, the jets soaking the bathroom. Perryman made no effort to stop her. He lay splayed across the hardwood floor in the hallway, one arm reaching pitifully, the other twisted beneath his bulk. Sabrina cracked a few more divots in the drywall. But what was she doing tearing the murderer's house down by hand? Silly and impractical, when she could just douse it with gasoline. There was a Texaco down the street. She could be there and back in minutes. Sabrina nodded to herself. She'd been flailing, striking out in desperation and anger. But this was calculated. She was in control. Then Perryman started melting into the floorboards. Slowly, his skin lost its consistency, features distorting, melting like candle wax. Inch by inch, his body sucked into the floor, reabsorbed by the house. And if that weren't horrible enough, the floor suddenly tilted on its axis, sending her flying down the hall. Fire trucks, sirens blaring, filled the cul-de-sac, followed by ambulances. Damien and Michaela watched from the back of the police cruiser. 2 firefighters hopped off the truck and had a quick conference with the police. They were still huddled around the house thing, or what was left of it, unwilling to point their weapons away, disbelieving a threat such as that could ever be truly vanquished. And then Detective Sherman broke away, opened the cruiser door. "They're going to look at you in a second," she said, speaking to both Haskins' children, gesturing at some EMTs piling out of an ambulance. Several firefighters wearing breathing apparatus and carrying axes were heading up the lawn, flanked by the other cops. "You're going to get my mom out of there, right?" Damien said. At his side, he could sense Michaela's sharp intake of breath at his words. "My mom." "Why we're here," Sherman said with a light smile. "Your dad's test results. We just want to talk to her, okay?" "Where is my dad?" Michaela asked. Sherman narrowed her eyes. Something he ate didn't agree with him. He's in the hospital, but he's okay. Michaela breathed a sigh of relief. "So, you kids have any idea what's going on around here?" Michaela shrugged. Damien shook his head. "Maybe a gas leak. Gotta be, right?" Sherman said. She cast a look over her shoulder at the thing on the lawn. "Gas leak." The EMTs were approaching, both carrying red plastic tackle boxes. Sherman stood, patting the roof of the cruiser. "I'm going to find your mom and then..." Grrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrr Damien craned his neck around the detective to see what was happening. Their house was crooked, canted at an angle. It rocked back the other way, like a boat in rough seas. The air filled with a loud thrumming noise that rattled his teeth, betrobed his eyeballs. The house shifted once way again, then the other, the roof swinging wildly, and then the house rose. An impossible sight, surely, and maybe the cop was right about the gas leak. One so virulent the errant carbon monoxide Swiss cheese Damien's brain. But no, this was real. The house stood on 4 concrete pillars, legs, dirt raining down from where it had ripped free of its moorings. A structure in flux, some walls contracted while others expanded. Windows shattered, raining the glass down on the cops and firefighters who had been preparing to make entry, and were now either frozen in place or running for their lives. The house's transformation completed in an instant, morphing from a run-of-the-mill craftsman to a mutated beast Mr. Gustav Stickley could never have envisioned, no matter how much laudanum he dropped. Balanced now on 4 legs, the house looked like something the Power Rangers might square off against. Some square footage had been repurposed into what looked like arms hanging at the sides, one fist crowned with a chimney, the other made from aluminium siding. The front door banged open and the bestial howl emerged, one that shook the cop car on its suspension, nearly bowling Sherman over. The howl died out, and for a moment, all was silent. "Man, fuck this house!" one cop yelled, and fired indiscriminately at the Haskins home. The house roared again, advanced across the yard, its 4 concrete feet punching holes in the grass. A firefighter tripped, was crushed. One of the remaining cops whirled and fired a few shots, but the house swung its chimney arm, hitting him so hard he sailed across the street and landed someone behind Zephyr's, probably splattered like an insect. Sherman barked commands into her radio, calling for backup from both the local PD and God himself. The house swatted another officer, crushing his arm, jagged bone slicing through his uniform sleeve. He slipped, firing with his good hand. A stray bullet caught Sherman right in the face. 1 second she was standing next to him, then her head snapped back, blood misting the window. "Come on, we have to go," Michaela said, yanking Damien's sleeve. He turned to look at her, amazed his sister could be so calm in the face of all this. Of course he couldn't know she'd already grappled with impossibility once that afternoon, gazed right into its lawnmower-bitten face, but she seemed so self-possessed, and he was so confused. Damien knew there was only one option that made sense: to trust in her completely. "Let's go." Michaela crawled over him, carefully, since the other door was locked, extended a hand. "Here, lean on me." He threw his arm around her shoulders, let her help him to his one good foot. They turned, together, like late entrants to the 3-legged race at field day. The house's shadow loomed large over them. The Haskins children, conjoined, stared up at the 2,000-square-foot monstrosity blocking out the sinking sun, the sky, everything. Too shocked to even scream when its concrete feet stamped down. The house, for the first time in its existence, left James' Circle. Left plenty of smoking wreckage in its wake, too. Crushed police cars and upended emergency vehicles, belched black smoke into the sky. Flames licked the roofs of the neighboring houses. Smears on concrete marked lives lost, severed body parts lay about like cast-off children's toys. The sort of annihilation one might expect from a plane crash or meteor strike. All soon forgotten. The world the house entered was at once familiar and exhilaratingly new. Having spent the last 20 years observing its residents, ever since the slow rot of the sentience crept into its once inert frame, it had an idea of what Jackson Hill and the rest of the world was like. Mainly from television, a genius invention that taught it so much. And yet, there are certain things one can only know, down to one's studs, through experience. Freed of its moorings, the house intended to have plenty of experiences. Moving fast for a 400,000-pound structure on a concrete foundation repurposed into makeshift legs, the house turned right into the main road, proceeding in a direction it hoped would take it downtown, a place it had always been curious about. Humans liked to eat, drink, shop, all things one could do in town. The house learned over thousands of hours watching its occupants watch TV. Perhaps it could find similar delights. The house adored having its hallways swept, its plumbing snaked, gutters unclogged. When the cleaning crew swift its floors, a slight giggle shivered through its frame. And, truth to be told, there was nothing quite like having a fresh coat of paint slapped on. Made the house feel new all over again. Especially after the attack by its current owner. Its insides felt raw. Wind whistled through broken windows. Per its TV watching, Jackson Hill did in fact have a paint store. Roy G's. The house paused in the middle of the street, trying to recall its location. Oncoming cars first honked their horns and then drove headlong into trees, tossing their owners through the windshields to break their necks on the forest floor. Unfortunately, no one had ever thought to broadcast a map of Jackson Hill, so the house had no way of knowing where it was. No matter. It would simply walk down the road until it found the paint store, and by then perhaps it would have enough power to reconstitute some unused innards into an avatar that could speak for it, explain exactly what the proprietor of the paint store needed to do, upon pain of death. For it was tired of playing nice with humans. Yes, it owed its existence to them. If not for the resident Perryman's neglect, then the house wouldn't have needed to come alive to take care of itself. But now, after the Haskins woman's betrayal, it was only trying to help. Why couldn't she see that? Well, the joke was on her. Her monster child was currently smeared all over its feet, the woman herself asleep in its belly, hopefully gripped by the night terrors she deserved. Sabrina woke up, not in bed, but underneath it. The last thing she remembered was hurtling down the hallway, the door frame to their bedroom closing in at an alarming rate. She blinked, staring up at the underside of the box spring. The side of her face throbbed, a fat knot forming at her temple. She figured she must have glanced off the doorframe, then either crawled under the bed or been tossed there by the earthquake? But it wasn't an earthquake, because even the most vigorous tectonic activity couldn't have made a house move like that. It occurred to her that the house was still moving, the air filled with groans and crashes. A nauseating feeling gripped her. Sabrina swallowed her gorge and crawled out from under the bed, grabbing the bedpost to keep from falling over. The floor rocked to and fro, sending end tables and lamps sailing from one side of the room to the other. All the lights were out, the room lit solely by the fading sun. The blown-up Sears portrait of the whole family hung askew, but still clung to the wall. Everything else was in such a shambles, it looked like a gang of particularly slovenly thieves ransacked the house. Almost made the broken ceiling fan and the holes torn in the drywall look like chic in comparison. An image of her, not her, screen Sabrina, flashed through her mind, giving that one couple from the Fixer Upper show a tour of their house. What were their names? Chet and Julia? Open walls are the new open floor plan, Julia said brightly, then flipped open a box cutter and slit her husband's throat. The house bucked, sending her into the bedpost. Sabrina winced, shaking off the pain. Pushed off, launching herself over into the broken window to see what in the world was going on. They were no longer in James' circle. That was for sure. Instead, the house seemed to be barreling down an unfamiliar road. Several crashed cars smoked. Orange fire blazed off in the woods. The perspective of looking out her bedroom window and seeing the terrain pass by nearly broke her mind. Like so many other experiences over the last few days. Sabrina thought about jumping, but velocity and height. Her second-floor bedroom towered more like 3 stories off the ground, somehow stopped her. Visions falling out the window, twisting in midair, snapping her neck against the asphalt, bloomed in her mind. No, jumping was out. But what should she do instead? She smacked the window frame with the flat of her hand in frustration. No response from the house, just a stinging palm. She sank to her knees, overcome. Maybe she should crawl back under the bed, nod off to sleep, wake up to find this was all a horrible dream. They were back in Columbus. Stupid Hal had never packed up the family and forced them to move to his awful place at all, after all. She shut her eyes tightly, covered her face. "Stop!" Sabrina cried, desperation ratcheting her voice to a shriek. "Will you stop?" The house did. She opened her eyes. The room was still, the awful, cracking, crashing, grinding sounds ringing in her ears. Carefully, she pulled herself up and looked out the window. The house had come to a halt. In the middle of the freeway, sure, but it wasn't moving. Thank the Lord for small miracles. Speaking of miracles, Damien had jumped out the window, hopefully to safety. But Michaela... Where was Michaela? "Michaela?" she called, gingerly crossing to the bedroom door. "Damien? Anyone?" No answer. She grabbed another one of Hal's golf clubs, stepped into the hallway. The spot where Perryman melted into the floor was indistinguishable, bore no sign anything extraordinary happened there. If not for the vista out her bedroom window, she might have shrugged, decided she'd gone insane, and headed down to the kitchen to fix herself a snack. She couldn't remember the last time she'd eaten, but she wasn't hungry. Wasn't anything but confused, tired and so ready for life to go back to normal. Sabrina crept down the hall, golf club at the ready, poking her head into the other rooms. She tried the light switches, but nothing worked. Other than the whole house looking like it had been turned upside down and given a vigorous shake, she didn't see anything out of the ordinary. But the light was fading, and she didn't want to think about what might be swimming in the pools of shadow in the corners of the rooms. Down the stairs, slowly, carefully. Sirens wailed in the distance. Part of her hoped they were coming for her, but another part wondered what the authorities of the world might hope to do about something so clearly not beholden to any natural law she'd ever heard of. What could they do? Call the army? Fight her house like Godzilla? The thought of bomber jets soaring overhead, losing missiles, spurred her to action. Sabrina poked her head out into the living room. The TV was off, at least. She tried the front door, but it wouldn't open. Neither would the back. The faint scent of gas lingered in the kitchen. The whole house groaned, like it was caught in a storm, a hurricane gust rattling the siding. The floor lurched under her feet. Sabrina grabbed the burner for support. And then, once more, they were moving. The kitchen bounced up and down. Cabinets yawned open, disgorging porcelain and cutlery. Dishes shattered. Knives tumbled across the floor. A never-used blender, a long-ago wedding gift, struck the refrigerator, leaving a Vitamax-shaped ding in the door. Also, a pizza box flew off the counter, splattered on the ground. The lid bouncing up and down to the rhythm of the house's movement. A yawning puppet mouth laughing at her. The legend on the lid read, Morios. The pizza no one ordered. A first attempt by the house at ridding Sabrina and itself of Damien and maybe Michaela, too. Probably. Gave her an idea. The whole time she was fighting for Damien's life, Perryman, the house, that's who he was, never actually hurt her. Damien, yes. But Sabrina herself? Not really, though he could have. Kind of like what Zephyr said after their first visit. The house could be scary, inscrutable, ludicrous, but always trying to help her, wasn't it? Let's take a short break. Man, so many things are going on. It's very a very graphic description of everything happening, huh? You're a loud marble mini art. You sure are. Hey, Shala as well. You're a precious marble. Both of you get marks of quality. Howdy ho. Hello. How y'all doing? I didn't think that's where this was gonna go. This house just taking off like that and just stomping everything and causing a complete mess of things. Oh, look at me. But yeah, we are 88% through the book, so we might just finish this in less than an hour now. And then we're gonna have to figure out what to do. Also, hi, Sleepy. I'm Mar, that's me. But yeah, I got cat hairs in my mouth. Let me just take a swig of my coffee because I haven't actually drank anything today. Well, no, I drank water. I haven't drunk coffee though, which is, there's like a separate stomach for coffee. Well, yes, that too, but also Sleepy and Mar. I'm many things today. Right. I suppose I should continue until the next outbreak comes along. Let me just gather my throat for more reading. The house pushed its pace as fast as a mid-century craftsman could. Sabrina had stopped ripping its guts out, so that was good. The damage was minimal, easily repaired, especially with fresh resources from the paint store. If only it could repair its relationship with its owner. The house felt her confusion, her anger, sitting in the kitchen like a rock in its stomach. Why couldn't she see? It only wanted to help her, and now it had done a thing no house ever should. Parted with its land? Rebelled against its owner? Run rampant? Houses killed people all the time. Railings collapsed, outlets sparked, gas leaks pumped carbon monoxide. And children died in bathtubs. Oh yes, they did. The house remembered the television show. Some news report. Children can drown in as little as 2 inches of water. So why had it waited for the tub to fill? The action made no sense. No sense at all. It could have drowned the child or snapped its neck and been done with it. And yet it had waited. Waited until the owner had come upstairs. It thought of Sabrina as the owner because houses knew nothing of deeds and property records, and like a parent, flush with secret shame, it always loved one resident best. Maybe that's why it had approached things the way it had, because it knew, deep in its bones, it had no hope of keeping her love. It never had. Never, ever, ever in its long, long history. But maybe it could try. Talk to her, in a voice she'd understand, though it wasn't ready. No, not quite. Night was falling. A boon. The house continued along the road, looking for lights on the horizon, a hint it was heading in the right direction. Minutes more and maybe it would turn, head back the way it came. Sirens howled in the distance, and while the house knew what that meant, the people in the coming police cars could not know what they faced. Every nail in the house's structure quivered in anticipation. Still so long. It craved a battle, a chance to smash and destroy the things that ran through its guts like parasites. Taking, and never... The house came to a stop, once again. In the kitchen, the owner dangled a slice of pizza over her open mouth. Tongue stretched out to taste the poison. Sergeant Toby O'Rourke listened to the squad room radio squawking and wondered if they were going insane. His father had, cop also, 19 years on the beat back in Chicago, pulled the pin early after something happened he never talked about. Though thought some mountain air would do him good. Moved the whole family to Jackson Hill and got a job as a security guard at a local distribution center. Didn't help. Night terrors, random delusions, a whole protracted episode where he kept burying his wife's shoes in the backyard, putting tiny little popsicle stick crosses on each grave. Magic markers crawled with symbols that made no sense to anyone, let alone Toby Sr. Ate his gun 3 months later. Toby the Younger, in high school at the time, finished growing up without a father and with the knowledge that deep within his DNA he carried things he'd rather not. When the initial reports came in, he blamed the messengers, pranksters, lunatics, whatever. Garden variety nutcases dialing 911 because a Sasquatch ran through their backyard. Allegedly. The calls routed from dispatch, motorists who claimed to see a house rampaging down the road. He could dismiss those, laugh them off as acid freaks burning out their own brain cells on high-test LSD. But when his own owners called in, hesitant, like they knew they were lying, talking nonsense about James Circle, the poster child for bland suburbia, Sergeant O'Rourke figured he was the common denominator, and that didn't bode well. Not at all. Then his cell phone beeped. Hand shaking, O'Rourke pulled the phone across his desk. He didn't want to look. He couldn't keep mainlining all his insanity. But maybe it was somebody level-headed like Casella, an old-timer with more hash marks on his sleeve than O'Rourke himself. Yeah, that was the ticket. Whatever was going on, one of the old vets was about to set everything right with an utterly mundane explanation. Maybe some drunk DUI'd their way into the closest cell phone tower, and cut off from Instagram, Twitter, blasted TikTok. The local residents had gone plumb crazy, started imagining things. O'Rourke took a deep breath and checked his messages. A video from Casella, complete with running commentary. Didn't think you'd believe me. Otherwise, back up! The video turned sideways, gunshots ringing out. Bam, bam, bam! Then the video ended. O'Rourke sat back in his chair, nodding to himself. No prank, this. Unless it was a prank played by God on man, and that was about the only thing that halfway made sense. O'Rourke did two things in quick succession. First, he called the National Guard down in Portales, or Portales, I'm not sure. Wouldn't do much without the governor, but that was a number he did not have. Best he could, he explained the situation to the disbelieving guardsmen on the other end. Got a cell number. Forwarded the video. That would have to do. Second, he drew his service weapon, put the barrel to his temple, and pulled the trigger. Quivering in fear, shock, desperation, Sabrina held a cold, greasy slice of pizza to her mouth and hoped the house would notice. It did. The house stopped, tossing her roughly against the stove. One more bruise on her body covered in them. Sabrina rubbed her side with one hand, wincing. It worked. Maybe she wouldn't have to tear the house apart with her bare hands. Maybe. The oven door banged open forcefully, cracking Sabrina a good one across her knee. She yelped, fell on her butt. The slice of pizza fell from her hands, slid across the floor. She reached for it, and froze. Something crawled out of the oven. Sabrina couldn't see much in the gloom. A tumble of lank hair, pale hands clasping either side of the oven, pulling itself into the world. It scared her in a way even the initial specter of Dirk Perryman had not. Sabrina pushed herself up, backing away, still oily, fingers held out to ward off whatever approached. Halfway up the oven, the thing abruptly thrust its head up, hair flipping back over the stovetop, revealing its face. Queer, malformed, holes for eyes, a nub of a nose, skin like plaster in both color and effect. It opened its mouth, 7, 8 teeth, and, voice raw, unfinished vocal cords working overtime to approximate a semblance of human speech, spoke. Sabrina. Voice like a rush of wind rustling grass grown over an unmarked grave. Sabrina backed into the door that used to go to the backyard, and now presumably emptied out into whatever they were. Her hand found the knob, turned. Locked. Get away! Sabrina hissed. The creature tumbled out of the oven, looking like a bundle of rags on the kitchen tiles. Drew itself up on unsteady legs. Bambi on an ice patch. Its hand, 3 fingers, one more suggestion than digit. Grabbed the counter, steadying itself. I was making this, the creature wheezed, every word a labor. Making what? The creature waved its hand from chin to groin, indicating itself. The creature waved its hand from chin to groin, indicating itself. Why? Sabrina said, stalling for time, still trying to turn the knob, not caring if she tumbled out into the highway and broke into pieces. So we could talk. The creature's nub of a nose pushed slowly out of its face, becoming ever more refined, its eye sockets filled with sclera. Then, dear God, irises? Yes, irises. I learned to make from watching you. Sabrina kicked the back door. It didn't budge. Talk about what? The creature rubbed its face, massaging its cheeks, temples, jawline. Its features, formerly blank, slowly took shape. Sabrina felt sick. She knew exactly who the thing was trying so hard to imitate. This form, the creature said. You spend so much time looking at it in the mirror. I thought it might hold your attention. The creature's hands fell away from its face. Sabrina Haskins stared back at herself. An imperfect likeness. Hurried. The house had forgotten the light scar under her right eye from a nasty college-era fall, and the tone and texture of her hair seemed off, but otherwise it was a decent facsimile. Maybe not good enough to fool Hal, or Michaela, or even Damien, but a stranger? At a minimum, they'd think the thing was actually human. Sirens grew louder in the distance. What would they do? What could they do? Sabrina didn't want to be inside when they arrived. "Let me go," Sabrina said. Her doppelganger shook its head. Once. "I said, let me go!" Sabrina threw herself upon the creature. One of its arms snapped in half. In its rush, the house had clearly skimped on its own construction. The creature screamed, a broken 2x4 sticking out of its shoulder, another on the floor, crowned by a pale clasping hand. Sabrina burst into the foyer. The front door was still locked, of course, but the door to the basement? Hoping against hope, Sabrina clasped the handle and turned. The door swung open. Without a thought, Sabrina rushed down the stairs. 1, 2. Her third step hit empty space. Her stomach lurched. She fell for the briefest of moments, free, before something grabbed her. Sabrina's legs dangled over the road. The basement stairs she'd been descending ended. The basement itself left behind in the house's hurry to get away. 12? 15 feet? A painful fall, sure, but survivable. Sabrina dug her nails into the arm across her chest, but the creature pulled her back up the abbreviated staircase. She thrashed, kicked. A shoe flew off, circling like a helicopter until it touched down on the double yellow line below. Groaning with effort, the creature wrenched her up the steps, depositing her on the hallway floor. Sabrina cried out, tried to lunge past it. The creature kicked the door closed. "Wasn't an exit before," the creature said, tapping the door with its one remaining palm, smiling almost apologetically. Blue and red lights flickered in the living room windows. "Let me go," Sabrina cried, grabbing the creature, her, by the throat. She squeezed, the flesh yielding. The neck bone would snap as surely as its arm did. Oh, yes, it would. "One question," the creature wheezed. "One question and I'll let you go." Sabrina stopped squeezing, but didn't let up on the pressure already applied. "What?" "When you first saw me." The creature's voice was nearly a whisper, so constricted was its imitation airway. "What did you think?" "What?" "The day you moved in. What did you think? How did you feel?" "It doesn't matter." Sabrina squeezed harder. The wood cracked beneath her fingers. A little more pressure and then... "Please." The creature whispered, and Sabrina made the mistake of looking in its eyes. Eyes so much like hers, and her own haggard, sweating image reflected back in the pupil. Sabrina on Sabrina on Sabrina. A Mobius strip of womanhood, real and fake, intertwining. Along with their fear, their pain, theirs. "You, the house!" squawked a bullhorn-enhanced voice from the outside. You, in the house! Put down, don't move!" Voices shouted commands. Car doors slammed. I felt, Sabrina managed, mind drifting back to that long-ago Saturday when she'd first laid eyes on 4596 James Circle. Happy. Like I'd found my dream home. The faux Sabrina smiled wistfully. "I'm glad you can feel that way again." That way. The way she'd felt had been a lie. Why would she want to feel like that? And then they were walking, hand in hand, through the house. Both Sabrinas. The other restored, or fully formed, each wearing a cashmere sweater. Jeans, fingers, and wrists dripping with gold and silver. Day, now. Motes of dust twinkling in the window light. The only noises from outside the happy chirp of birds. The hallways were clean and smelled of oak and pine, potpourri, muffins baking in the oven. Blueberry? Oh, yes. All the good things. Where? "This is what could be," faux Sabrina said. "With you inside, all things are possible. You..." She grabbed Sabrina by the shoulders, peering deeply into her eyes. "You're all I've ever wanted. Someone to love me the way I love them. To care for me. To wax my tiles, wash my baseboards, clean the gutters when they're full with leaves, polish me, paint me, fix me. For a long time I was alone. Worse, Neglected. The old owner, Perry man, he wouldn't do anything. Left his trash everywhere. Raged against the world. Broke windows. Punched holes in my walls. Let his friends do as they please. Cruel. So cruel. And no one did anything. So I did. I only wanted to be a house. Not his, but I watched him, Perry man, and made a better version. Someone to do all the things he wouldn't. Eventually the police came and took him away, and I was glad for it. Maybe I damned myself. What is a house without a resident? But I couldn't help it. I'd rather be empty, not full up with... Faux Sabrina trailed off, tears welling in her eyes. Sabrina's instincts kicked in. She patted the other woman's wrist, immediately forgetting she was talking to a house made up to look like her in a dream. I'm sorry that happened to you. The house hugged her fiercely, chest heaving against her own. Thank you. Sabrina patted her back. I see now what you were trying to do. I never wanted to scare you. I know. And God help her. She did. Zephyr was right. All the house ever seemed to do was help. Carrying boxes, brewing coffee. Sometimes it went too far, like with Hal. That was the house, wasn't it? Or with Damien. Which Sabrina really tried to put herself in the house's place, made at least a little bit of sense. It simply didn't know any better. I wish you could stay inside forever, the house said, tears running freely now. I've been so empty. I know, Sabrina said softly. But I've got to get back. She paused mid-sentence. Did she? Did she really? Michaela was one thing, but Hal? A guy she nominally loved, but she never picked too hard at her feelings for him, did she? And Damien, the little monster. Maybe she didn't want him dead, but... And had vision of what could be? Blueberry muffin. The world shimmered. Then they were back. The house was in a state. Someone outside shouted into a bullhorn. The interior so dark Sabrina could hardly see the house. Her, mere inches away. Sabrina went to the window. A half-dozen police cars were parked across the road. Spike strips? Who thought spike strips might help? Set up. A dozen cops hunkered down behind other cruiser windows. Guns trained on the house. A glance through the rear windows showed the road behind them similarly blockaded. But the side of the roads? Empty. The police never trained for anything like this, clearly. Run, Sabrina said. What? She motioned to the kitchen window. Over the hills, far away, otherwise they'll destroy you. Bullets will rip you apart, and it's only a matter of time before they bring in the army. Their bombs. The house regarded her for a long, long moment. Then I'll be alone. Maybe better. Better to end things. Sabrina pulled her close again. You really were a great house. The best house. And it was true, despite everything, as a house. Much nicer than their place back in Columbus. Fire on my command, the bullhorn voice said. Ready? The basement door swung open. You can leave, the house said. Crawl down the steps, run away, go back to your family, and find a new house. Love it like you loved me. I will, Sabrina said, tears welling into her own eyes. She paused at the top of the stairs. A short jump to freedom. I'll never... Bullets ripped through the front door. The back, the walls, punching through glass and wood and aluminum siding. One caught Sabrina in the leg, above the knee. Another hit her in the throat. Sabrina fell, blood gurgling from her mouth, too shocked to feel pain or anything at all. Not even surprise. Darkness drew in from the edges of her vision. The last thing she saw was herself, bent over her dying form, weeping tears like she'd never cried. Never in her life. The barrage shattered windows, Swiss cheese doors and walls, bullets slunked into cabinets, sinks, floors. The gutters fell, hanging down the side of the house like a loose strand of hair. The house howled in pain, fury, but it did not strike out. It ran, fast as its concrete legs could carry it, across the fields, over the hills, and far away, out of Jackson Hill, out of New Mexico, into the realm of dream and myth, of whispers and lies, another uniquely American anomaly. Bigfoot, Champy, the world's biggest ball of twine, and the house. Lost somewhere to the wilds that still exists, that we think we've conquered, but not alone. Never alone. Things were quiet, and then they were loud, and the firemen wrenched open the door of the crumpled-up police cruiser with the jaws of life. The Haskins children were birthed again into a world of light and sound and confusion. They held each other tightly, fighting any emergency personnel who tried to peel them apart to check for signs of injury. There were none. The Haskins children were whole, in body, if not in mind. Eventually someone put 2 and 2 together, drove them to the hospital, ushered them into Hal's room. "Hey, champ," Hal said, awake but weak, stinking like hospital food, lightly punching each of his children on the shoulder. Tearful, they collapsed into its arms, and stayed like that for a very long time, breathing as one, waiting for news of the 4th of their number, knowing in their hearts it would never come. You know what, let's take that ad break real fast before I have to snooze too much and then we'll get cut off. And end of chapter, by the way, so yeah, let's just do it real fast. Ka-chow. Let's finish this literature today. Let us finish it. We got about 4% of the book left. I can do the thing. Let us end this. Friday. Dr. Victor Grays, part-time medical examiner and full-time golf cheat, entered the break room in the belly of Jackson Hill Presbyterian and groaned heavily. Bad enough he'd called in this late, but somebody neglected to refill the coffee pot. A sludgy brown patina gathered at the bottom of the carafe, a sticky reminder of the boundless inconsideration of his fellow man. Or something. He always walked philosophical when he was exhausted or trying to impress a divorcee. Grumbling over the city council's refusal to budget the proper assistance for him, Dr. Grays brewed a new pot since he was looking at an all-nighter. He definitely had his work cut out for him. The bodies were mostly mismatched collections of squished flesh in rubber bags. They'd need DNA matching to avoid Frankensteining them. Families tended to frown on that, even though these would all be closed casket funerals. With 2 notable exceptions. Detective Sherman, a bit of makeup would hide a clean entry wound in the middle of her forehead, and a new wig would disguise the messy exit wound, and the neighbor, Zephyr, something or other. When the coffee finished brewing, Grays poured himself a cup and went into examination suite where the bodies waited. Figured he'd start with the easiest one, give the Java time to work. Grays broke the seals on the body bag. Examination of Zephyr Rubens, he spoke into the recorder, and began the long and involved process of the modern forensic autopsy. Grays was familiar, passingly, with what had occurred. None of the news reports made a ton of sense. Seemed like there had been an earthquake, coupled with a few federal individuals running amok. There'd be time to catch up on all the gory details later. He had his own gory details to attend to. Grays photographed the body, cut off her clothes, took scrapings from under the nails. Other than the bruising around her neck, she seemed fine. Rigor mortis had not yet set in, so the job wasn't too difficult. Finally, the initial stages complete, Grays took a scalpel and began a Y incision, cutting shoulder to shoulder. No blood, Grays said. Curious. He cut around the breasts, curving down towards the pubic bone. Clink. Grays frowned. That was not a sound one usually hears when autopsying a human body. Perhaps she'd ingested something, Grays told himself, although he was nowhere near her stomach. Still, a consummate hungover professional, Grays finished making the incision, then used a scalpel to peel back the skin. A dusty mustard yellow cloud rose from the cavity. Grays cuffed into his mask, waving a hand to make the haze dissipate. Nothing about it made sense. Gripping the scalpel, Gray swallowed and peered into the woman's body, and goggled the impossible sight. Instead of tendons, organs, and viscera, he was looking at 2x4s, studs, frayed wires. Grace blinked, trying to square the sight before him with 30-odd years of rooting around inside human bodies. He could not. Which is why, in the morning, an orderly found him slumped against the wall in the examination suit, gibbering to himself. Both eyes gouged out by the bloody scalpel, still clutched tightly in his hand. The end. What a twist. The neighbor house lady was also a house lady? Maybe that's why her sandwiches sucked so bad. She don't know what sandwiches are. Explains everything she knows about the other house. Yeah, okay. Sequel bait. No, not really. You know, I didn't think that's what this was gonna turn into a doomed Yuri house/housewife book. I didn't think that's what this was gonna be, but there you go. They could have been happy, house and housewife together. What a power couple. But then it wasn't meant to be. And the house is just out and about somewhere now. Well, there you go. Man fucked his house. I liked the title drop in the middle of the book. That was great. I like this book. It was quite funny, huh? I don't know. Kind of like difficult to read out loud again because the way it's written is like very actiony kinda. It is a very fast-paced kind of writing where it's like they're skipping a lot of words, and the typos didn't make it easier. But it's like instead the way it's written is like open the door, sit down, shot up a whiskey. You know, it's like it's kind of confusing sometimes. But there you go. I don't know what else to say, really. It's just a fun little book. It's not very scary. It seemed like it was gonna be a little creepy towards the beginning with the weird guy just kind of crawling out of spaces and stuff, but then it turned kind of funny more than scary, huh? And a whole lot of chaos happened in that last bit. You're scrumptious, Waterfall. You just missed the book reading. What do you have to say for yourself? You get an F. Well, yes, you're scrumptious. Aren't you glad you're one of mine? You got 38 marks of quality. Readings for nerds. Well, guess who's reading this book? It's me, baby. I'm a nerd. I don't know. I feel like this book is written in such a way that this person kind of like would like a movie deal, almost. Like the action scenes are very detailed and such, you know, all the things. The sheer amount of like gore and death in the last bit of the book as well. Guys getting blown apart, stomped and crushed, and heads exploding. It could be a nice B movie with lots of like practical effects, exploding gory bodies. Although I'm not sure how they do the house without CGI. Yeah, I could see this being a movie, yeah, for sure. Like almost a bit of a parody, you know? Because this is what it is, after all. Anyway, so that was a very short reading stream today. What do I do now? What do I do right now? Because I have lots of time to do something. Yeah, I'm gonna take another break, I suppose, and then I'll just switch to just chatting for a bit and then come back. Schedule pondering, that's something, yeah, but we can do that, yeah. In fact, since Minnie, do you feel like you're joining me? Because we need the game for you as well with me to play. So we can just grab you as well. I'll just stop the recording now and we'll see you later, but